Many people think of this country as a peaceful country.
It is also often stereotypically considered nice.
This country doesn't go too far back, just under 150 years.
This is our country, the beloved Canada.
Canada wasn't a country until July 1st, 1867, which is why we celebrate Canada Day on July the 1st.
This is what we call Confederation, where all of the states/provinces agreed to become a whole along with the host country.
In this case, the British, but there have been many other attempts to bring Canada together, but countless events have happened to decide the provinces we have today.
For example, the expulsion of the Acadians, where the Nova Scotia we know today was actually called Acadia. At that time, New France owned most of Canada, but Nova Scotia and also New Brunswick was given to Sir William Alexander, a Scottish courtier, forming Acadia, a small Scottish colony.
Then later, the scumbag British came over and told them, we must own all the land here. So there was the Treaty of Utrecht signed in 1730 to give British all of Acadia.
The Acadians were slowly relocated to the west coast of the United States in Louisiana, and by 1755, they were all completely expelled. Nova Scotia and New Brunswick were then considered British until Confederation, but after everything is peaceful for a while, there was the infamous 7 Years' War.
New France, British North America, and Spain were the main combatants in North America, and this was the start to the eventual decline of the French in Canada.
The war was 9 years long, but was mainly occurring in the last 7 years until 1763, where they finally came to agreement and signed the Treaty of Paris.
There was also a lot of conflict in Europe, where Prussia showed to be quite dominant, and there were the Napoleonic Wars.
The Treaty of Paris had France give Great Britain all of pretty much Canada except the province of Quebec, which still belonged to New France.
After that, the British took note of the tiny island, what we now know as Prince Edward Island, and renamed it St. John's Island to be a separate colony named after the British Duke Prince Edward.
It was ignored for quite some time as it was part of New Brunswick after Acadia, as it was slowly becoming more populated.
Sometime later, the Constitutional Act of 1791 was created, separating Canada into two parts, Upper and Lower Canada, where the French owned Lower Canada and the British owned Upper Canada.
After several conflicts with land and borders, the most well-known War of 1812 began. At this time, the United States fought the British in a 3-year war, declaring from the U.S. for trade restriction and boundaries.
In the end, the Treaty of Ghent was signed in 1815 to officially end the war, and after approximately 20,000 deaths, nobody got anything.
Although it ended peacefully, as all the occupied lands that had been captured from before were returned and they were friendly again.
Following after the war, the Treaty of 1818 was made to have more precise boundaries from the Great Lakes to Rocky Mountains, and also other trading restrictions.
The next major occurrence was the rebellions of 1837, where Lord Durham John Lambton requested for Upper and Lower Canada to form one province of Canada with one order government.
There was a lot of conflict with the Patriots and Republic of Canada, and there were quite a few casualties, but in the end, they have come to an agreement in 1840, the Act of Union.
The Act of Union allowed Canada to be a province, and the whole British colony split into East and West Canada, where East was Lower Canada and West was Upper Canada.
Except now they had a formal government with a crown or queen in the UK, Governor-General chosen from the Executive and Legislative Council, which were from the 84 MPs of Canada, chosen by the population of Canada.
42 MPs for Upper Canada and 42 MPs for Lower Canada voted from the population of Canada, which at the time was just over 1 million.
1848, the newly designed government was changed again, where they used a responsible government system, which is voted upon accordingly to the population count, and the votes are accounted more towards the council.
In 1848, Nova Scotia was added to Canada and later PEI on 1851, New Brunswick on 1854, and Newfoundland on 1854.
Rupert's Land existed even after Confederation and was owned by Hudson Bay Company, which which is dedicated to trading.
The west of current-day Canada were British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, were trading and Aboriginal grounds, but not many people lived there.
Slowly, this area of Canada was recognized and many people moved to British Columbia, which was considered part of Canada in 1871. Not until 1871 was Rupert's Land disbanded, which occupied much of Canada, and then was renamed to Northwest Territories.
Alberta, British Columbia were considered Canada in 1870. This resulted in Confederation of Saskatchewan and Alberta in 1905, which were split from the Northwest Territories.
That is all with territorial conflicts and disputes. We explained it the best we could, but how about other attempts to allow Canada to be one?
Well, we know about the Durham Report, but that was only one partial change. So in 1859, Alexander Tilloch, George Etienne Cartier, and John Ross traveled to the United Kingdoms to discuss this idea.
The British government took this into consideration, but in the end, that was received with polite indifference and rejected.
In 1864, it was clear that the Act of Union was impractical because of rising populations and conflict.
From 1864 to 1867, there were many conferences, with the most famous Charlottetown Conference and Linden Conference, which both majorly influenced the government.
In 1867, Queen Victoria Royal ascended the British North America, which declared Canada a separate country by July 1st.
After this, there was much celebration and cheer, as the new France, Quebec, also accepted the offer.
Later on, Newfoundland joined Canada in 1940, and then Nunavut and Yukon much later.
This is just a brief overview of the Confederation of Canada. We hope you enjoyed our presentation.